everybody. Welcome to One Set. My name is Anthony Irvin.
What's up, everybody? How we doing?
This is my co-host, Jim Green. This has been a year in the making.
It's really been 23 years in the making. Who wants to tell it? You or me? I don't know. Let's do it. What is going on, everybody? How we doing? My name is Jim Green, along with my co-host here, my best friend and brother, Anthony Irvin. How you doing, my guy?
Doing good, brother. Another week, another dollar. It was a fun weekend. You know, we try to stay a little bit relevant on here. We just got done having July 4th weekend. So, I mean, it was pretty low key around here. We for myself, we didn't really do too much. I did some fishing with my dad on Sunday. We usually try to go down the shore, but we just stayed local this time, and we just hit our local creek. And did a little bit of walk. I think usually when we go the extended route around there, we're usually hitting almost like somewhere between 5 and 10 miles of like hiking. So you at least get your cardio in there.
You get your steps in.
Get your steps in. Yeah, I hit 10,000 steps. I was like, oh, I haven't done that in a while. Yippee!
There you go.
And then we just did a traditional, July 4th, little barbecue at my parents. Had my son and my brother's son together, cousins hanging out. They're starting to really become a pair and really starting to get in some mischief. So we have to really start watching them now. So it's always fun.
Nice.
But other than that, how was your weekend, bro?
Good. Also, didn't travel, stayed local. Pretty low key. I think. What do we do? Sunday, my parents had like a cookout with what was supposed to be like my sisters and my brother and all of my nieces.
Mm-hmm.
My brother actually wound up not being able to make it because he was celebrating his nephew on his wife's side of the family's 18th birthday that just passed. And they didn't get home until late, so
gotcha.
They actually came over Monday afternoon on the 4th for a little bit just to hang out, and then we did. My parents and my younger sister and me and Cheyenne did ribs for dinner last night, and I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." They took a little bit longer to cook, and then we were like, "Shoot, we got to get out of here," because we were all 5 of us were coming here to do fireworks because the high school is like almost right across the street. So we just parked ourselves in their lawn chairs outside in the parking lot, and we could see it right there. It was perfect.
You guys got the perfect seats there.
Yeah, it was awesome. My mom actually said that she's never been so close to the fireworks, which I couldn't believe.
Right.
Because we used to see them down the beach in Rehoboth, but when you're on the boardwalk in Rehoboth and they're launching them over the water, they're out like pretty far in the water. So I mean, it's still nice, but we were pretty close and able to see everything right from where we were. So it was a good time. Nice. I do got to give a shout out, and I didn't even tell you this because I think I was trying not to think about it too much today. Our cat Chunks of 15 years, my dad found her passed away in the yard yesterday. So that was a bummer. She started losing weight like maybe 6 weeks ago. So my mom was trying to like really boost up like feeding her like because like all my cats have been eating like the dry food for like ever. So my mom was giving her like the wet cat food to try to get her like more nutrients to put some weight back on. And she was acting pretty normal for the most part. She was still moving around pretty quick, jumping up on the counter, which
Mm-hmm.
my parents allow for that kind of thing. I know that other people would be like, "That's gross. They're
What
outside."
the
Cats.
whoopsie?
I can't. I can't believe y'all are gross and disgusting. Um, nah, I mean, once again, my dad grew up on a farm, so like that kind of
Yeah.
stuff doesn't bother him, and my mom isn't a germaphobe by any means. But anyway, yeah, um, they started noticing discoloration in her in the litter pan. I'll just
Mm,
leave it there.
yeah.
So about a month ago, my mom was like, "I'm really nervous that she might be like coming up on that time," and I was like, "She'll kick out of it. She'll be fine."
Yeah.
And then um, got to my parents, and they they told me, that she had passed, and I was like,
Mm,
I don't know. I was kind of just like still.
yeah.
Um, we had because we've. I mean, Ant, how many cats have we gone through? If you had to guess,
I was gonna
N-
say. I mean, Chunks was in the family for how long?
15 years.
Yeah. So
It's been.
she's been around a while.
She's the longest cat that we've had, and honestly, um, and people are going to be like, well, I bet you guys don't take care of your cats. Most of our cats, being outdoor cats, and where we used to live, we used to live across the street from like the
Yeah.
woods,
Right.
wooded area. So I, a lot of them would go off, um, and we would just never see them again. Like either other families would find them and take them in, and they just stayed with them,
Uh
or
huh.
they were, you know, I guess eaten up by bigger animals in the woods,
Yeah.
or something like that. So we had our one cat, uh, Fiona or Fifi. She was big cat,
Hmm.
huge. I think it was maybe I think we said it was like 10 years ago that the neighbor who actually, like from my parents, who actually works up the street at the vet,
Hmm.
um, came and knocked on our door and told my mom. I was still asleep. It was, 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was a day I didn't have to be up early. Um, I wake up to my mom running in the door, like just bawling and howling, and
Mm.
I run out my bedroom. I'm like, what? And she's like, it's Fifi. Someone, uh, an animal got her. She's on the steps to the pool.
Mm.
So I go outside and I'm like, what do you mean? I like couldn't even look because she was like, something was eating the cat.
Oh,
Um,
jeez.
which we later found out it was a rabid skunk. And what wound up happening actually was my dad was leaving for work. And this actually ties in because he was leaving for work at like 6 a.m. and he was walking out the front door, and a skunk starts charging after him.
Hmm.
And Chunks, because skunks aren't like aggressive like that, right?
No. No.
So what happened was Chunks was like, I guess, walking out the door with my dad because he usually like lets her out as he's leaving,
Hmm.
and she goes out for the morning. Chunks darts past my dad and takes on the skunk, and the skunk
Mm.
flees off because skunk was skunk. Chunks was a warrior, man.
Mm.
She was, dare I say, an animal. But
Right.
um,
So she
yeah,
was
so
she guarded the palace.
she did. I mean, my dad, he got sprayed, but didn't even know it. He got to work, and people were like, "Do you smell that?" He's like, he's like, "No." And then after they determined it was him that smelled, he had to take off his clothes at work and
Yeah.
change and have them get clean. He
Right.
had like a backup pair of wardrobe at
Right.
work, or like a work uniform of some sort that he could wear.
Hmm.
Um, and he's like, that damn skunk must have got me, right?
Probably, yeah.
Um, so at by that point, or within the next hour, my mom called my dad to tell him rather, that Fifi had been attacked by the skunk and the skunk was eating it. So
Jeez. Yeah, I think I remember you telling me that eventually.
yeah, so the the vet lady was there still, and she was like, call the cops, have them come here, and then they'll call animal control
Hmm.
and come out. So what happened was, one of the cops, we actually went to school with him. I'm not going to name drop him, but
Right.
shot the skunk with like a beanbag rifle,
Okay.
and the beanbag hit the skunk so hard it killed it. So then animal control was coming out.
Hmm.
Another cop was like, "Do you have a blanket? I'll wrap your cat up for you unless you wanted to." And I was like, I don't think I
Yeah.
can. And he was like, "Trust me, if this was my dog, I wouldn't be able to do it either." Like I
Right.
and he was a grown man. Like if this was
Yeah.
my dog, I couldn't do this.
Yeah.
So um the one cop dug the hole for me, and I laid her in the hole.
Hmm.
I buried her after the fact. Um, the problem was she was my older sister, Kim's cat, and
Uh-huh.
she was at work all day, and we're like, we can't tell her she's at work.
Yeah.
And after work, she had to teach that night, so we're at the studio with her all day, like, we know, like, after
What
we get home,
happened?
we're gonna have to break this news. So like,
Yeah.
she wasn't mad at us for not telling her. Like, she understood. I know some people are like, "Why didn't you tell me immediately?" And
Yeah. Hmm.
that's a case by case kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um,
It's on a respect level, but yeah, sometimes people can kind of take it as, like you said, like, oh, well, you should have told me no matter what. And some
right?
people respect it as a fact, oh, well, appreciate you at least, waiting. I understand why you waited. So, like you said,
Yeah.
it depends on the
Well,
person. So,
we didn't want to interrupt her day at work. Like,
yeah, of course.
the job that she was working at, I don't. She was like someone's, like, personal assistant under them. So
Hmm.
I don't think that her boss would have been like, "Oh my god, total." I don't think she was like that kind of person. So
Yeah.
we decided against interrupting the day.
Right. Right.
Um, and selfishly, and this is going to come off rude, but um, finding coverage for dance teachers the day of is never fun. Okay.
Hmm.
And Kim having taught so many classes, it's like we're not going to be able to facilitate all of her coverage today just because
Yeah.
of the cat. We can just
Right.
tell her at the end of the day and break the news
Hmm.
to her. So yeah, to all of us following along and listening, sorry that this got so morbid out of nowhere. um, but yeah, so RIP to Chunks, the
Yeah.
longest
All right.
cat that lived in our house ever. We love and miss you, and we will see you on the other side. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just, we buried Chunks right next to Fifi in our yard. Like,
There
they
you go.
both have headstones.
That's
Um,
nice.
they're, I think, other than like dead birds or rodents that, like, my cats have caught outside, that, like,
Yeah.
my dad will just quick bury them. Like, he's good with that.
Hmm.
Um, we had these ducks one time that were given to us, like these little ducks,
Hmm.
and um, I don't know if I mentioned the skunk. What they said was rabid, like it had rabies, which is why it was
Yeah.
so aggressive. So
Right. Right.
when we go back and we talk about Chunks coming to the rescue to my dad, like, if that skunk got a hold of my dad, he could have wound up with rabies. So
Absolutely.
we always talk about how Chunks stepped up and saved my dad's life. That's why him finding her, he was like pretty devastated.
Yeah, I can
Um,
imagine.
so another time, a rabid skunk got to these ducks that we were they were living on my back deck because we had them in the spring,
Mhm.
like March to May. So they lived on the top of our pool cover. Like we made them like a little pond for them to swim around in. They were
Mhm.
they were pretty cute. But my parents heard this commotion outside their bedroom window at like
Mm.
4 in the morning, and my dad ran out to find like two of them were dead like
Yeah.
instantly. Well, and he saw the raccoon that got to him.
Ah.
Um, he, you know, um, well, I'm not going to say because people are going to get
Yeah.
upset with how he took care of the raccoon. um, but the third one was still up and moving. But when I came down in the morning to find out about the massacre that happened and see all the blood on the deck,
Yeah.
this one duck had like its head open and you could see its brains and everything.
Ah, jeez.
I'm trying to wash this thing down, and it's literally a walking vegetable. It was the most heartbreaking thing.
I
My
can
dad
imagine.
my dad came home from work and he's like, "There's no saving this thing," so he just put it down and buried it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no other fun uh, pet death stories that I mean, I had some hamsters when I was a kid. And yeah, I'm not going to get into all that. It's kind of irrelevant. We can get back on a more positive discussion, I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, I had a couple things. We had like a rabbit when I was a kid. We
Mhm.
had this big like gray rabbit. We called him Humphrey, and uh, I think and again, I'll make this a little bit short, but my dad built this like big cage out in the backyard for him, and he would
Sure.
just do his whole thing. I'm not sure if he uh passed or he just got so big that we had to eventually just let him go because there was no use in us keeping a big rabbit in our backyard. Uh, but my brother
So
had a couple.
if I had to guess, your parents told you guys because you were kids that they had to let them go,
Most
even though
likely,
it
the
probably
traditional thing,
passed.
like, "Oh, we let him go, but we didn't wanna tell the kids that he probably passed."
Yeah, that's
I have a feeling that he did pass, though. I mean,
yeah.
because
Well,
we didn't really have him for long. I think it was maybe a couple months. It was like one of those things, "Oh,
okay,
let's just," so it wasn't a big, pet thing that we had for, like, years. I think it was only a couple months we really had him. Uh but then my brother was big into turtles as a kid, and we had like a big ditch in our backyard, and we had to hit like a whole like big turtle thing that we had for him.
oh
And
cool,
he had this baby snapping turtle. And we went on vacation one year, and our neighbors, we had one of our neighbors to go check on the turtle to make sure it gets fed and everything. We come back from vacation, it's dead. And my
man.
brother's like, devastated. And again, like, I'll leave, some vulgar descriptions out, but like, I guess the proper term for it was already starting to set in like rigor mortis and everything, like
Sure,
everything.
yeah,
So it was like a pretty, I guess for like, probably like a 6 to 8 year old kid, seeing that's like pretty traumatic for even like a small little pet seeing that type of thing.
sure,
Um, but yeah, so he was really big in the turtles and doing all that. And trying to think, and we have, my mom has her Yorkie right now, and we got him back in 2010. So Yorkies have a very short, you know I think it's like 12 to 15 years. So
yep.
he's on the back nine as well. I mean, he just had a fall, and because he likes to, whenever he sees something outside, he'll go to our back door, and he likes to run down our deck and then go out to the front and try to start barking and everything. But every once in a while, because my parents back deck is like, it's wood, but it's like that pre-treated wood and it's a little slippery. So I think
Sure.
sometimes if he's running, he'll slip, and if he goes down those stairs, like he'll just like tumble down them and he'll keep on going no matter what. But then, one day he did that and he came back up and he was limping back into the house.
Mm.
So I think they took him to the doctors, and he didn't break his back leg, but he was definitely limping. So I think he probably either pulled a muscle in there, and he's just starting to get back. And usually when he's done that before, but this was like, the first time where it took him like at least a month or two to kind of, really get back to his self, because he wasn't eating as much, just, pet things, normal pet things. Like they don't really eat as much. They kind of, are, slowing down a little bit. And that really started getting us a little worried, because like, I mean, we know he's on the, other end of the spectrum, but like, he's doing better now, and he's, getting back into like, jumping up on the couches and everything and doing a little bit more activity. But we're more aware of that, he's getting older, so we're trying to,
Kind of.
take care of certain minimize the things that we used to just let him do, and try to be like, okay, Cobb, don't do that because you're gonna get yourself hurt.
Yeah, it's also the mental preparation, which
Oh yeah.
it's we're starting to do that with Aquino, Cheyenne's dog
Hmm.
now, because
Yeah.
he just turned 11, but he's showing signs of slowing down. He's losing some of his teeth.
Mm.
Uh, um, he hasn't been eating as much because of that. It's hot out. He's like panting, but we turned the air on for a few hours earlier, and even after the room was cool, he was still panting. So we were like,
Mm.
you know, kind of worried that something was actually wrong with him. When we didn't have the AC on and we were just running the fan, it wasn't like insanely hot. We weren't like
Right.
sweating. It was a little warm, but nothing that he can't handle. And we just trimmed him, so his hair is not long or anything right now.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Well, this can be started to come into the pet podcast this week. So,
yeah. Hmm.
so anybody who's
Well,
cat and dog lovers, they'll like the first little bit of this episode here.
yeah. Well, it was just funny because I know off air we were talking about like, okay, what do we want to talk about today? And it was like, okay, let's just quickly recap like our weekends and stuff. And I was like, I totally forgot to even mention to you. So I kind of
Yeah.
jumped into all of that for a little length of time. But in good news, just a segue, and we're not going to talk a lot about this just because I have been lately kind of getting into the Phillies, but we did just crush the Washington Nationals 11-0
Yeah.
nothing.
That
So
was a good win.
yeah, I mean, and it's just again, I know I have said before, like with the whole Carson Wentz going out, Nick Foles comes in, like
Mm.
the team just pulled together. You know, Bryce Harper going out. Um, they're still trying to get you to vote for him for the All-Star game so that he can,
Hmm.
still get acknowledged.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, yeah, you can still get acknowledged, but obviously you won't be able to play, but that you can still be voted into the game to be an all-star. Yeah.
right, and then they just take whoever the next in line is that wouldn't
Yeah.
have would have been if it wasn't for him to go in, right?
Exactly.
So they're still trying to encourage that, which like it's cool and everything, but like I don't see why next year he wouldn't get voted in when he can play, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, so uh, anyway, the other guys are really stepping up. Kyle Schwarber he just did 2 back-to-back home runs tonight, and the second one was a beautiful thing. It went like all the way up into the second set of rafters.
Nice.
He was struggling there earlier on in the season, and I was like, "What's going on with this guy?" But he's hit his stride. He's doing really well now. Yeah. So I think there's still 3 months of baseball left. So we'll see if the Phillies can keep the hot streak, get that wild card, and secure that. Otherwise, if they start tanking at the end of the season, it's like y'all have been here before. Like, you got to stay consistent and do your job the whole time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to
Um,
know that they're kind of banding together. And like you said, I mean, it's sometimes when those situations happen when one guy goes down, you know that's when the team really kind of shows their colors to be like, okay, we got to band together and don't let this little uh you know misstep kind of get us out of our funk to what the main goal is, and to hopefully get into well, especially for the Phillies, they want to get into the playoffs this year. They haven't made it to the playoffs in a while, so I'm sure that's their first goal, is to at least make it to the playoffs this year. I mean, I'm not even thinking World Series, but that would be the ultimate. But even if they can make it to the playoffs this year, that would be a good start into being overturning the team to get somewhere, instead of being the team the last couple of years where they're it looks like halfway through the season they're going to make it, and then they just start down spiraling, and it's like, okay, then another year they
yeah,
don't make it to the playoffs. But hopefully they can keep riding with this momentum, and it'll get them into uh better things in September, October. I heard one thing on WIP this morning, a good quote that I think they were mentioning with the Phillies is win games sooner to now I'm totally messing up this quote, but I'm going to paraphrase. It's like, win them sooner to congratulate the wins later in that aspect. So like, kind of get a lot of your bulk wins in early in the season to congratulate yourselves later. So that
right.
it seemed like a
Well,
pretty cool quote to kind of go by. It seemed to really spark with the Phillies how they're going with right now.
well, I think that it's mostly just get the momentum strong as soon as
Hmm.
possible, because otherwise, if you which is where they have been, where it's like they're almost there in September, and it's like they're fighting for their lives against the other teams that are like, dude, we're just having fun because we're secure, like we're
Yeah,
already in the postseason, we're done. And
yeah.
then
You don't have to work as hard. Yeah,
yeah, and because they're not working hard, they're having fun. And they're not stressed or anxious as much. It's like, and I
yeah.
think that that's kind of where you're going with that. And
Right.
at that point, those guys that are like, oh, you take September to just like stay cool, calm, and collected. You get to the postseason, then you can kick it in a high gear and be a little bit stressed. But you being super anxious just to get into the postseason, I think is what is a lot of teams downplay. Obviously, there are
Hmm.
teams that enter as the wild card and go all the way and win. That's
Yeah.
it's a rare thing, but it happens, right?
Right.
So, um, kudos to the Phils. We'll pick up on them more in the next couple episodes. Let's do our. We're not going to recap all of Money in the Bank, but we've got to talk about like the big things that happen, right?
Absolutely. I think the first thing, I guess, that you know I guess take is the takeaway of it is probably Liv Morgan winning the Money in the Bank, and then which I had expected her to take the win of the Money in the Bank. I was hoping that they were gonna keep that, because I think this is her moment to kind of just show everybody this is her time. Just give her the shot. I think she's kind of proved herself over the last year of being in a lot of main events that she can hold her own. You know, I mean, the women's division is going to be the women's division in WWE, but I think they've really tried to just put her in those matches to kind of just see how the audience is taking her, and she's starting to get a little bit of a push with the crowd. I mean, they're starting to believe in her, and I think that was the best thing to go. And
De-
they
Definitely.
ended up giving her the ultimate payoff later in the night. So that was, obviously we saw Ronda, retaining, but I don't think anybody expected the cash in to happen that soon with Liv. I mean, like we were talking off air, that lately with the women, it's been kind of, soon that they cash in, either like that night or within that week of them getting the Money in the Bank. Usually there's a cash in, but I didn't expect. I think we said last week we didn't expect a cash in to happen, so that was kind of cool to see.
Right. And I I have the card order right here.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure this is the order. So the thing is, right? So Bianca Belair was defending against Carmella, right? You weren't gonna have a babyface Liv Morgan cash in on Bianca Belair, especially Bianca. They're trying to elevate her. Um, so I think Liv cashing in on Bianca would have been like okay, but I think Liv cashing in on Ronda Rousey because like I think I speak for a lot of us wrestling fans that like it's exciting to see Ronda in a match. Like you could do Ronda versus Charlotte in a non-title match, and I would care about it more because I'm like
100%.
I don't need the title on either of them. You need the title on, and I mean I know that like having the main title in the company, it's supposed to be like you're the top person, right?
Hmm.
When it comes to like the men's WWE or Universal Heavyweight, call it whatever you want, the top title, you're supposed to be like the guy, right?
Hmm.
But you have all of these years where John Cena wasn't, the top champion, but he was the face of the company, right? So you
Right.
can you can still have, Becky Lynch or Ronda Rousey or Charlotte Flair. You could throw Sasha and Bailey in there as like your top five, right?
Hmm.
That you and I were talking earlier this morning about how they don't need the belt. You need to
No.
you need to you need to put the belt on people like Bianca or on Rhea Ripley, um, Liv Morgan,
Hmm.
you know, uh, Nikki Ash didn't need it because
No.
well she was last year's women's Money in the Bank winner, and then she didn't have it long. She cashed in.
Hmm.
I think the year before that. Well, the year before that was the Oscar win at the headquarters because that was the COVID Money
Yes.
in the Bank,
Yeah, that
and
was the COVID one. Yeah.
and the next night on Raw, Becky Lynch walked out with the briefcase, and like after Oscar was already out there,
Hmm.
and I was like, "What is happening?" Or no, I think Becky walked out with the case and then invited Oscar out, and then Oscar opened the case and the belt was already in there, and that's when Becky was going off because she was pregnant,
Right.
which was really cool the way they did it. That was really nice.
Yeah, it was a cool, moment to at least let her, give her moment to, tell everybody that. It was cool.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so wishing the best for Liv Morgan. I think that she has deserved this for about a year now.
Yeah.
Um, I think that they were starting to test her. She had a match with Becky Lynch on Raw, maybe 4 or 5 months before WrestleMania 38, and then
Hmm.
everyone was like, Liv Morgan's going to win the Royal Rumble. Like they thought that that was her test, and everyone was like, she passed. Have Liv win the Rumble. I think that she was one of my picks back
Yeah.
in
We were
whatever.
definitely picking her to win, I think, or at least be one of the finalists. But then she got out pretty early, and we were very surprised that she
Yeah,
got out early.
I think the week of the Rumble when I was doing my predictions, I had Ronda Rousey returning, and
Yeah,
then I had Brock Lesnar losing the belt and then winning
and
the
then coming
Rumble.
back in. Yeah, you were spot on with the Rumble. Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of a waste because they let me see they did Brock Lesnar beat um he won the 5-way match at day one by pinning um he pinned Big E right at day one because
Yes.
Big E cashing Money in the Bank on Bobby Lashley a few months before that, right?
Hmm.
Um, we just had this discussion right before we signed on because we were trying to make sure we had it all right.
Uh huh.
Um, but Brock Lesnar got screwed out of the WWE title by Roman Reigns, I believe, at the
Yeah.
Rumble.
Yes.
And I honestly forget who I think he dropped it to Bobby Lashley. And
He
then
dropped it to Bobby Lashley, yes.
and then Brock
And that
got it
became
back
his
from
second
him.
title. Yeah, that was Bobby Lashley's second title reign. Yeah,
Right.
so he lost it to
Lesnar.
Lashley that night. Roman Reigns came in to, interfere. And then, Lesnar got it back off of Lashley.
Yeah. So they were doing it where Lesnar lost the belt. He won the Rumble later that night. And then it was like, okay, well, who's going to face, is Brock going to face Bobby Lashley, or is he going to face Roman Reigns?
Mm-hmm.
And then I forget the sequence where they had Brock go back over Lashley, and then it was Lashley was deciding to challenge Roman at Mania, and then they did the champion versus champion thing, which like was basically how I saw that panning out. As far as I'm trying to remember what were the women title matches at this past Mania. I mean, it was Bianca Belair beat Becky Lynch, right? That was
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
that was supposed to be the comeuppance for Becky Lynch returning at last WrestleMania and squashing Bianca Belair in 3 seconds, right?
Yes.
Everyone was like, "You just started building Bianca to just crush her like this." So, and then they took the whole year to actually really, really build her up, and then Bianca won the Rumble, right?
Correct.
And then she challenged Becky, and that was that feud. And then we had Ronda go after Charlotte, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Which they're saying that they have Charlotte and Bailey just like waiting to bring them back in, like they're both ready to go.
Yeah.
So that's all cool and everything. I think with the we'll do the woman's Money in the Bank right now being, well, Liv Morgan already cashed in, which I will say, yeah, I think next year whoever wins it should hold on to it for a while, because I saw someone complain on the internet. It's a little ridiculous. They've only had like 3 Money in the Banks with the women where they held on to them for like a little bit. Most of them are cash in so fast, which I agree with, because you had, and we think about like your guys that carried the briefcase for a while. Seth Rollins, most notably, like him winning Money in the Bank, which would have been in June. He had the briefcase until next April. So he just played that up, and watching his build from the briefcase to winning the belt to beating Cena at SummerSlam to win the US belt and having both belts, like watching him rise to that.
Yeah.
And then him going on to beat Brock Lesnar at the Mania that you and I went to, which was 4 years after his cash in at WrestleMania 31, by the way.
I remember when the thing started and we heard Lesnar and Seth's music come out, we're like, dude, Seth is getting this tonight.
Yeah.
Ain't no way. I mean, if they're going with this first, that they're going to have going over Lesnar.
Yeah. Yep. Lesnar was like, if I'm losing, I'm going first and I'm going home. See you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And then
so we had, we taught the women.
We got to talk about Bobby Lashley winning the US belt, because that I don't think any of us saw actually happening, only because
I did not think that was going to happen.
No. They're pushing theory to the moon, clearly.
To the moon.
To the moon. But we clearly saw why they did that later on when they added theory to the men's Money in the Bank match. And at that point, it's like, okay, he's winning it. Like he wouldn't have lost. it's just like when Lesnar lost the belt at the Rumble earlier in the night. I
Same
was like,
stuff. Rinse,
same
recycle,
stuff,
repeat.
same stuff, right?
And I didn't
So
see the Lashley and Theory match. So when they were saying they were adding an eighth person, I'm like, okay, who could it be? And you know, when he said Theory, I'm like, okay, so did he win or did he lose? Then I saw him without a belt. I'm like, oh, okay, he lost. Makes sense.
he
So they're
he
pulling the
lost,
whole
and that's
thing.
why they're going to put
Yeah.
the briefcase on him. Yep.
So I'm like, all right,
Which
well, my theory, no pun, has changed. So, I mean, with anything, he's getting a hell of a push right now. So, I mean, he he's young. He what? I think they said he's 24, 25.
I mean,
I think they were. I
Randy
saw
Orton
something of
was
the yeah.
he was the youngest at the age of 24. Orton became the youngest world champion in WWE history.
Yeah,
Um,
I think there was somebody was saying online as well that there's a uh, thing where if Theory wins a championship soon, he might now be the youngest at 24 to win a championship. Because I think his birthday is in this month or in August. So I think if he wins it before his birthday, he's going to be the youngest. If he wins it after his birthday, he's also breaking some type of record in the I think with his age or something within the company. So either way, if he cashes in and gets one of those belts before or after his birthday, he's breaking some type of record. I'd have to go back and see, but it was interesting to read up on that.
yeah. So,
I mean, I don't not like Theory. I think he's doing a good job at making you hate him. So I mean, he's doing what he's supposed to do. He's making you try to hate him. So I mean, I think he's doing good work for what he's doing. But it'll be interesting what they do with him going forward with the cash in and who they're going to make him. Well, obviously, right now it's only Roman, but it'll be interesting how this plays out. Whether he just goes right for it, or he kind of just holds it off and waits until that spontaneous moment to, strike.
yeah, I'm reading back super quick when Randy won. On August 15th, 2004, Orton became the youngest person to ever hold the title.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that they can do here is say Randy was the youngest world champion, and they can say Theory is the youngest
Yeah.
undisputed universal WWE champion. Like they can word it that way and
Right.
say because he would cash in and get both belts, right? Like
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so it wouldn't be because Randy Orton won on August 15th and he was 24 years old. So the last piece of the puzzle here is I have to see what Randy Orton's birthday is, which won't take very long at all. Okay,
Yeah.
his birthday is April 1st. So
Okay.
he if
Is that a
Theory
joke?
I think for Theory to be the youngest champion, he'll yeah he'll
He'll,
um
he'll, he'll.
he'll he because he's going to turn 25 like 3 days after SummerSlam on August 2nd
Mm-hmm.
is his birthday. So wait a minute,
Wait a
isn't that
minute.
little man's birthday?
August 2nd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you didn't know, if he shared a birthday with a famous person, your guy your guy Austin Theory is the first one.
There you go.
Uh, famous. Uh, sorry for the dead space here, y'all. I'm just doing the quick thing.
No, I was just gonna say that. I mean, yeah, it's it'll be interesting what they do. I mean, do they just, you know, let him keep on doing what he is kind of doing and just making himself be that, you know, arrogant young kid that's thinking that he's, you know, good enough to be at you know, the spotlight with everybody else, and then kind of just saying I'm, you know, Vince McMahon's, you know, number one choice, blah blah blah, doing the confident, you know, walk and talk thing, and just let him ride that out until he kind of, you know, catches it in? Or are they just going to try to make this really quick and then get him? I don't think he's going to you know, get the belt from him anytime soon, because that would just totally mess up Reigns, you know, whole spectrum if they're trying to get him to eventually do the whole Rock thing. So they want to keep him, they want to keep Roman obviously with the belt on, but they could do a whole thing where, you know, they can't, well, I don't know. I doubt they would do that because they want to keep the numbers going for Roman. So they're not going to have him, you know, take the title off to win it back in a couple weeks, because they want to keep those numbers going for him.
Right. Well, the other thing too here is Roman having just renegotiated his contract to work less dates, right?
Yeah.
So, and this goes with what we were saying earlier, where if you do Roman Reigns versus The Rock, I mean, that is going to headline WrestleMania, and you need neither of the belts in that match at all.
That is true too. That is
Because,
true.
I mean, at that point, it's like, okay, you have The Rock defending, or defending, Roman defending against The Rock and retaining. It's kind of like, so then you have Austin Theory go over Roman Reigns. Like, no, I think that the last man standing thing can work. Like, because they're doing the last man standing match between Roman and Brock, which I think when people are like, "Oh my God, they're doing this match again," I honestly think that
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're doing it because the Mania match that was supposed to be the biggest WrestleMania match of all time got cut short because Roman got
Yeah.
injured. Roman got injured in the match.
Uh
Um,
huh.
so I think that they're doing this last man standing match to make this like a
As a
huge car
as a
crash,
repeat as a
right?
repeat thing. Yeah. So
Without the injuries, hopefully, right? So I mean, it's possible. I mean,
I
what
mean, I
if
do like how you just said with The Rock and Roman that, I mean, because I never really thought of it in that way. Like, you don't need them to have, Roman doesn't need to have the belt to face The Rock. I mean, because it's going to be against the lineage of the Samoan lineage thing, because obviously they can just play the card of, like, you know, The Rock is the top of the totem pole in the Samoan family, but Roman's trying to be the top guy. So there necessarily doesn't need to be a belt involved in that, because Rock's only coming back for this one match. I don't see him prolonging anything again. So
no?
he's already, this would be a last match. So with this would technically be his, you know, hey, I I've proved everything else in the ring that I need to. I came back and won a championship. I've already done that, so I don't need to come back and win another belt, but I can do as like a passing of the torch thing. So that
So
we
So it's funny you say that because as soon as I started thinking about Roman coming in and saying, "I've done it all, I'm done," is exactly what The Rock did after he beat Hulk Hogan. And
mm,
then we got Goldberg's
Goldberg,
debut.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you could literally have Roman come in and say, "I'm done." Like maybe even after the Rumble, I just maybe Roman vacates the belts because he's like, "I'm done. I'm out of here." And
There
then
has to be some big, you know, thing that makes The Rock come back. Either it, they can either pull it on the fact that, you know, Roman calls him out and just goes off the traditional thing of that, or like you were saying, Roman just starts going back in the fact that, like, hey, I've beaten everybody here. I told you I was, when I get the belt, I'm slaying everybody, and then I'm going to leave. I've
yep,
gotten the belt. I've beat everybody. Nobody has come close to me. So
I'm
I'm leaving.
leaving. And that,
He
and
starts
then
leaving,
you have
and then
him
there goes The Rock, you
you,
know?
you have him you have him just lay the belts in the ring like
Yeah.
that's him vacating the belts, or you have him call Vince McMahon out and say, "You wanted me to be your poster boy. I'm done," and then leaves the
Yeah.
belts with Vince, Paul, anyone, and then after he turns the titles over, you have The Rock come out and
Mm-hmm.
he can say, "You call yourself the tribal chief, and then you're just running off like some chicken shit." And
Yeah.
off off to the races. You get the belts off of Roman without him losing, and then you have um a tournament for both the belts. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that that's probably the way to go. And if we're right, it's like we're basically just writing this from
Whoopsie.
now on.
Yeah.
So
I mean, hey, put our names in for the application for writers, you know?
yeah, I wouldn't mind.
I like
Um,
it.
yeah, works. Did we miss anything from Money in the Bank? I think if you do that, um, then the theory of theory having the briefcase um, works. There's intrigue because now you don't know who's going to be the champions, and
Yeah.
and this is why someone said if Roman Reigns beats Brock Lesnar, just remember, actually, it doesn't even matter. Whoever wins has to face themselves at Survivor Series in the champion versus champion match.
Yeah. So yeah.
So it makes sense to get those belts separated before then, so you can have that
Yeah.
title match at SummerSlam,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I think we basically just wrote everything out until, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you have Roman just walk off and don't have The Rock come in and you just save The Rock, because
Mm-hmm.
maybe the Rock won't commit until it's closer.
Yeah.
But I mean, he did the whole Cena 1 year build when he
Right.
was a mega movie star, right?
Because everybody knows it's coming. It's just a matter of when. So, like you said, you can put a couple teasers out there, like, oh, it could be coming here, it could be coming there, but you just keep prolonging people to get them interested until it comes. But you don't
Well,
want to kind of keep, you know, people thinking, and then they're just gonna, if they keep teasing them too much, then it's gonna bring people back, like, okay, it's just not gonna happen. So if they can kind of start teasing it to the point, like, okay, so it might be coming around soon, or either, like I said before, either Roman starts doing like little small hints of teasing that, okay, I'm going after, I'm going to call out The Rock or something, or the fact that, hey, I mean, if I win this again, I'm leaving. He starts teasing that he's going to leave,
yeah,
and then so
yeah.
it'll be interesting.
I think they could do on the SmackDown the Friday night before. He'll say, "If I win tomorrow, I'm done. I've got nothing left to prove." And
Mm-hmm.
that and him saying that would be a reason why The Rock would show up, right?
Yeah.
Because I can't see him leaving, walking away, and then The Rock just coming out and calling out Roman Reigns. I think The Rock just stops Roman before he can leave. I think that that's the biggest selling
Mm-hmm.
point, right? Um, let me think here. I just had something else in my mind. Shoot. Yeah, I mean, I'd have. I know that SummerSlam is in Nashville, so that's not necessarily like somewhere where The Rock would show up. Oh,
Yeah.
this tickets for Mania go on sale in like November.
Right.
So you could always save that teasery for Survivor Series, but I don't know if they wait that long. I don't
No.
I don't think they wait that long. Although if they do the Rock thing now, it's almost a shoe in for Mania. Everyone's going to be like,
Right.
of course, it's going to be in Mania. It's in LA, this, that, and the other, and it's going to blast their ticket sales out the freaking window immediately once they go on sale, because they're going to be like, they're doing the Rock and Roman at WrestleMania, and who doesn't want to see that match? I'm going, right.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. They know, and I'm sure Roman and Rock know, their plan is to be having a match next year at WrestleMania. It hasn't been set in stone, but that's the plan. And we're just gonna, as it gets closer, we're gonna keep evaluating. Okay, that's still the plan. And as it gets closer, that's the plan. It's the plan. And then the as it gets to that certain point where they're just gonna pull the trigger, like you said, I mean, like, okay, now it's time to just start getting this, because now we're definitely confirmed this is the match. Rock schedule works. Everything's good. Let's start getting it in.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, they'll probably wait. I wish they wouldn't, obviously, because I think him beating Brock again at SummerSlam is just a perfect reason for him to be like, I'm done. I've beaten
mhm.
Les. I've beaten Lesnar's
Whoopsie.
for the last year and a half or whatever.
Right. You keep feeding me the same people, and I'm done.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. I don't know if Rock doesn't confront him right then and there. It's like, what, you have Roman enter the Royal Rumble at number 29. It's like, oh my God, it's Roman Reigns. And then at number 30, it's The Rock. And then
Yeah.
you just have them stare each other down.
Hmm.
And then Roman just walks away. And then someone throws The Rock over, or
Right.
The Rock just clotheslines Roman over, and then he goes over with him. And then
Hmm.
The Rock just stands up and looks at Roman and walks away.
Yeah.
You could do that. I don't.
Hmm.
I mean, if you wanted to wait until closer, that would be the move. But if you wanted to build it from SummerSlam to then, and like The Rock says, if I'm ever going to wrestle one more time, it's going to be this match. It's going to be in LA because I'm not getting any younger. Like I mean, he's 50 now, isn't he?
The
Dwayne?
Rock?
Yeah.
If
Uh,
not, he's coming up on it maybe in the next year or two, I'd say.
no, he just turned 50 in May. So he'll be almost
Okay.
51 at that point. So,
Okay. Yeah.
you know,
Then.
Roman's got the whole, dude, you're 50 years old. Who do you think you are, Hulk Hogan? Like
Hmm.
he could totally say something like that, right?
Like, are you sure you can still, you know, roll with the big dog and all that BS he says?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Like, dude, I have my own. I have my own gym in my palace. I think I can roll with you, buddy.
yeah. Seriously.
But before we get out of here, do you have something to say before? Like, because I have one little more thing to say about the Money in the Bank. I didn't want to cut you off, but
No, I was just gonna say Anthers or anything else. So go ahead.
well, this is my honorable mention. I know when we were talking before, we didn't really have to talk about this, and we won't go into big detail, but I wanted to give an honorable mention that I felt the Uso and Street Profits match was a good match. I mean,
Oh,
at
it
first
was
going into this, I'm like, I mean, who cares? It's just a match. I mean, they're going to retain. But I thought they put on a really good match. I
yeah,
just want to give that as an honorable mention that match was pretty stellar.
it was extremely, thank you. I was gonna say the word stellar too. Okay. Um and really the whole bloodline can just drop all the titles, and then you're vacating the WWE title, the Universal title, the Raw tag titles, and the SmackDown tag titles, and the bloodline can just be like, we're done, we're out of here. And
Uh
then,
huh.
you know, obviously Vince doesn't care about tag team wrestling really. Um, so he won't make a huge stink about the Usos just relinquishing the belts. Um,
Yeah.
but I do think that just them vacating the belts is best for business because it creates intrigue about who's going to wind up with them next, especially if they are planning to do some sort of a draft, which the brand split isn't even a thing now. You have so much crossover happening right now, it's ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, the match was stellar, just like you said. And we good?
I think we're good, man. Yeah, we can wrap it up here with this episode. But yeah, it was awesome pay-per-view we had. Looking forward to SummerSlam. Uh Anything you want to tell our listeners, buddy?
Dude, I hope everyone is enjoying their summer so far, getting some sun in. I finally got to get in the pool and get a little bit of color in. Um,
Yeah.
I got to hang out with my nieces this past weekend. We had an impromptu, uh, quick choreograph and perform a dance and jump into pool thing on the deck. It was like really low
I
key.
saw
What
the
we
video. That was cool.
it it was mostly them, like my nieces that came up with the
Nice.
stuff. I was just going along with it, like being goofy. And then
Nice.
we were all supposed to jump in the pool at the same time and do like a spin in, but it wound up being like a ripple. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, how, the fact that that happened and it looked so cool, it's so fun.
It works.
It wasn't like technically sound, and it wasn't meant to be. We were just having fun. It was like, incredibly
Yeah.
recreational, but it was a good
That's cool
time.
to have that.
Yeah. Our one set listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. As always, you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram. Our handle is the number one, not THENUMBER, but just one set pod, right? And you can find us if you want to email us any questions or suggestions that you'd like us to talk about. You can either comment if you're watching along on YouTube underneath, or you can email us at onesetpod@gmail.com, preferably the Gmail, because we'll get the notification quicker than the YouTube commenting. If you are just listening audibly, you can find us on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. Ant, my brother, love you, my dude.
Love you, man.
Talk soon. Thanks,
Cheers,
everybody.
everybody. Have a good week.